Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. My name's Rob Commodari. I'm your host. I'm also the author of Better Than You Think and co-author of the book Next Level Your Life with several other authors. But today I have a guest, Ken Walls, all the way from Dallas, Texas, the Big D. And and Ken is noted for his walls of wisdom. He's Ken is a #1 best-selling author, CEO of a web development and social media firm, and a creator of Grow Live Academy, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. It's a comprehensive course on how to successfully use social media, video, and live streaming to build your business or business brand and generate revenue. Ken's passion is helping people succeed. He also has a podcast, Breakthrough Walls. I love the name, Ken Walls, Breakthrough Walls, where he interviews celebrities and successful entrepreneurs who share their stories to help people get past influences that may be keeping them stuck. Ken, welcome to the show today. Thanks for being here.
Rob, thanks for having me, man. I'm honored.
That's awesome. So, yeah, you've had a high level of success, and if you could give us a little bit of context of your early years to where you are now, that would be helpful. And then I will dig in with some questions if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Look, you mean childhood, early years? I was born and raised in Northwest Ohio. Um, a very, very small town. My graduating class, I think, had 82 kids in it or something. I don't know. It was small, and I always I grew up in a very, very poor house family. Um, I watched my mother and my stepfather, work in a factory my entire childhood and made next to nothing, knowing what I know now. But back then, you just didn't, you just lived and there was unfortunately, a lot of violence and drugs and alcohol in the house that I grew up in, and created a tremendous amount of probably a chip on my shoulder as a kid, and I gotten a lot of trouble here and there as a teenager, um, and ended up in 12th grade. I they called me and said, you didn't get a biology credit in 10th grade, and I was like, yeah, that I hated that class, and they're like, well, you need that class to graduate, and I'm like, well, that's stupid. Let's just give me a diploma without that. And I had ace trigonometry and analytic geometry and calculus and all the math stuff I was really good at, and for college prep stuff, they didn't see it that way, and they wanted me to come back for a whole year just to get a biology credit, and I said, yeah, that's not happening. So I walked out, and I think there were still 3 or 4 months left in the year, and I just walked out and said, I'm moving on with my life, and good luck to y'all. And look, I remember I had an English teacher, I believe she was, that got really upset with me one day and said that I was never going to amount to anything. And looking back now, I've authored or co-authored 8 different books. I have a chapter, and the #1 best-selling author in the world is Mark Victor Hansen with Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's his biography, Relentless. And I have a whole chapter in his book about how we met, and the power of storytelling. And that teacher that said I was never going to amount to anything has written 0 books. So I don't know what what you use to keep score, but I'd say that I've done something at least so far, and I wake up every day and ask the good Lord to give me the opportunity to help somebody else today. So that's kind of a very quick summary of my childhood and upbringing. There's a lot of insanity in between there, but yeah, that's kind of where it all started for me, Rob.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So I got to ask this question: any siblings? How many siblings do you have? Brothers, sisters? Any?
I have a brother, a younger brother, an older sister, and a younger sister.
Yeah. I was just looking for some similarities here in the sense that I grew up one of 7 kids in a small house and whatnot,
Yeah.
and we were poor. And the reason
Yeah.
I bring that up is you said you were in a poor house.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
know you were poor, or like you said, we just lived? That's what you said earlier. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know you're poor until you see the other side of that.
Yeah, I mean, at some point it became pretty clear, at 7 or 8 years old, I started working, mowing yards and shoveling snow and weeding flower beds for little old ladies and doing everything I could to make extra money because I wanted, I saw the kids wearing the name brand jeans and clothes and we weren't able to do that. And the only way I could do that is if I bought them myself. So I learned how to make money early on. And so I could go out and buy my own stuff, so I could fit in is what I think I was trying to do. But, yeah, that was just life. I don't know that I ever define, of course I heard no, we can't afford it, all of that stuff. Money doesn't grow on trees. Get your head out of the clouds. That's a pipe dream. Stop thinking like that. Because I was always a big thinker and dreamer and doer. And it just never resonated with me otherwise. Like I just thought, my gosh, these rich people we see on TV and these people that are doing amazing things in life, like how did they get there? What was the mindset behind getting there? And so that's been a lifelong journey for me to figure that out.
So at age 7 or 8, you started, cutting the grass, shoveling the snow,
Yeah.
and weeding the lawns or gardens or whatnot. So did
Yeah.
somebody tell you to do that, or you just inherently said, I need to do something?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But once I did do it, I just kept doing it. And the other thing is when I was 11 years old, there was this little Italian restaurant in the town I grew up in. And I thought I want to work there. And so I went and got in. I went to the back of the restaurant hoping to see the owner, and I eventually did. And I said, "Hey, I want to work here." And he's like, "You're too young to work here." And I said, "Well, there's nothing I could do, like, clean the parking lot. You got trash laying out here." He's like, "Yeah, you can clean the parking lot and you can clean out the trash dumpster area and I'll just pay you cash on the side." And and they're long out of business, so there's no and I was only 11, so but I started doing that, and I would go around to different places looking for ways to make money like that. I would just walk in and say, I want to work here. I don't, people I hear people say they can't find a job, and I think, what that's not, then create a job. Go figure out something. I don't know. I can't relate to people saying they can't find a job.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ken, because like a little bit about me is the like I started working when I was 11. We lived in a 2 bedroom house initially, went then to
Yeah.
3 bedroom, but 7 kids,
Yeah.
and we were poor, and I didn't realize, I didn't know we were poor until one day I was with my mom at a dime store. We called it a dime store back then. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was paying a bill for whatever we got, and she pulled out a book of food stamps. I'm like, food stamps? I'm like, that means you're poor, right? And so we went through that. We went through the 5 pound block of cheese, the powdered milk. We did that. A good Friday night would be me and my older brother and sister kneeling on the couch, looking out the front window, waiting for my dad to come home off the bus with the 5 pound block of cheese all sliced up, and we'd have a good time when he came in. So then I would start to deliver newspapers at 11. I was shoveling snow, I was cutting grass.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like nobody told me to do it, and I was like, is this just something intrinsically that says, hey, if I want something, I got to go get it?
Yeah. I mean, that's the only way I've ever known. I don't know of another way.
So like the name brand for us was Jack Purcell's back then. You remember that? The ten,
That
like we have
sounds
fish heads. You either had fish heads or you had Jack
yeah.
Purcells.
Wow. Yeah, I don't remember that. I mean, I remember Jordache jeans and you know, of course Levi's and those were high dollar items for me back then, you know. So,
I
yeah.
had corduroys. I was wearing corduroys, playing basketball in corduroys.
Yeah. 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 And
So,
the parachute pants and yeah,
it's all
all
good.
that.
But
Yeah.
anyway, but I appreciate you sharing that. So you
Yeah.
ran into some trouble later on, as you told me in a previous
Yeah.
conversation, and is that, I guess, was a result of the environment you were in at home?
You know, I don't know that, you know, I found out, well, I knew all along probably, but discovered at 34 years old after wreaking havoc in my life and the lives of a lot of other people and marriages and relationships gone bad and a multi-million dollar business that I literally went away. I found out that I was an alcoholic at 34 years old, and again, I probably knew all along, but I had never been in enough pain, I don't think, to actually do anything about it. And one night, this guy sits down. Long story short, he said I offered him a job a couple nights before in the same bar, and that he had put in his notice to quit his current job to come and work for me. And I'm like, dude, I'm not hiring. I'm downsizing. What are you talking about? And he got really ticked off and said, you know, I can't believe this that you know everybody knows you're nothing but a worthless drunk. Why don't you go get help? And I, you know, something about that conversation just it bothered me so much that it forced me to not forced me. It just I don't know, man. I had a spiritual awakening, and I went the next night to an AA meeting. I had been in a like at 12 years old, a judge court ordered me to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know, I had been through all kinds of stuff, and um, I just you know at 34, I'd had enough. You know, I'd spent the better part of 20 plus years um, drinking and drinking alcoholically, drinking to blackout to where I couldn't even remember what happened the night before, or the day, or whatever. So, um, yeah, that was 21 years ago. I got sober, and by the grace of God and a lot of hard work, I haven't had a drink or mind or mood altering drug since then.
That's awesome, man.
Mm.
Congratulations to you on
Thank
that.
you, dude. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so then you said, you mentioned it not too long ago. You said you had a multi-million dollar or multi-million dollar business.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Can you tell me a little bit, shed a little light on that?
It was a company that I was one of DirecTV's largest dealers in the United States, and I had trained a bunch of salespeople to go door to door selling satellite dishes and selling home security and build up quite a big company. And it's a long story. I don't want to get into the details, but I eventually it all went away because you know, I was a raging alcoholic, man. I would, you know, some of the stuff that it was insane. I had no business um, trying to run a business of any kind in the state of mind that I was in constantly, which was drunken, you know, at all times. It was nuts.
So you had that epiphany at age 34. Like, was there a point up until that time that you say, I keep doing this, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm just going to lose everything?
You know, there I heard this Kentucky state senator talk about, you know, alcoholism one time. And he was in recovery and he a long time in recovery. And he said, you know, there's a saying that the disease of alcoholism doesn't care about you, it just wants to kill you. And he said, I don't believe that's true. He said, I believe my disease of alcoholism just wants another drink. It doesn't care if I live or die. It doesn't. It's indifferent. It just wants another drink. And I could so relate to that, man. I that it wasn't a matter of I didn't put thought into I'm gonna live, I'm gonna die. I didn't. It was just I wanted to drink. That's it. I
Yeah.
wanted, and I remember when I got sober, I remember thinking, what do these people do for fun? How in the world do you live life without ever drinking? That sounds miserable. And now I have fun all the time. So, I totally get it now. And it was a gift. It was a huge gift, man. It was God was and I believe that everybody can have the gift. I know lots of people that don't ever get it. They don't ever um, get and stay sober, but it's a gift. It's available to anyone that wants it, but you have to surrender. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, we're going to talk about surrender in a minute here and the
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah.
The Yeah, so what does fun look like to you now?
Well, I'm a computer geek. I've been I bought my first computer at 11 years old, a Commodore 64C, and I'd spend days and days and days writing code just to get a little white dot to blip around on the screen. You backed it up to a cassette tape, the programming, and now I have this pretty good sized marketing firm, and I've created a celebrity brand for myself online, and I'm all about taking technology, what's happening in technology, and turning that into dollars for my clients, like teaching people how to use technology to take their business to the next level. And so I'm constantly researching. I'm constantly retooling things that are new stuff that's out, so I can go, okay, here's how you use AI, for example, to augment what you're doing in your marketing currently and make it better. And so I'm that's fun to me. I know it sounds weird. I like to play golf too, but it's been over 100 almost every day for a couple of months here in Texas. So you don't play golf when it's over 100. Now today it's only 88 today, so it's nice out. But I like to play golf, and I love my family. I love spending time with my family.
That's awesome. So when you said it's over 100 every day, I thought you meant you shot over 100 every day.
Well,
But
that would be true probably. No, I'm kidding. I shoot in the 80s typically.
well, there's your 88. Go get your 88, right?
Yeah, right, right,
I
right.
tell people I am the handicap anyway.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, I'm with
So,
you, man.
hey, so you just mentioned something about the gift. What is that gift? Is it God's grace? Is it the enlightenment? What's the gift you talk about?
Um, well, I always say when I see somebody that's not staying sober that needs to be, I always say, but for the grace of God, there go I. And it's a gift that everybody, like, I don't think God shows favoritism. I think it's a gift that every single person that wants it can receive it, but you first have to surrender to it. And that part of that surrender is you have to admit that there's a problem. If you can't do the fundamental basic, and this applies to, I think, everything in life. Number one, admit there's a problem. Admit that there's something you don't know, that there's a different or a better way, and then say it to yourself or say it out loud. But admit that there's a situation and you don't know how to fix it. And I used to see these kids, these guys come in that they're like, oh, I'm just, I'm here because the court sent me and I don't really have a drinking problem. I'm like, bro, you crashed your truck into a tree and went through the windshield and you don't think you have a problem? Are you serious? like, and you lived, so there's some kind of grace in there. You didn't kill somebody, so there's some kind of grace in there. And so the denial is so strong, man. And denial is an acronym for don't even notice I am lying.
Wow.
Don't even notice I am lying. And so I spent so many years of my life lying to myself and to others about the reality of my situation. And that was I was a raging alcoholic. I didn't know any other way though. And so when I finally went, I don't want to live and I don't want to die, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of waking up like this. I'm tired of not remembering what I did the day before. I'm tired of people looking down there. It felt like everybody was looking down their nose at me and judging me. And I finally, it all of the chaos came to this abrupt like point where I just call it the grace of God. But again, you have that grace. Everybody on this planet has that grace. It's not, God's not hiding. I love it when people say, I found God. I'm like, God wasn't lost. You were. Like, he was always there. Like he, she, whatever you want to call God. I don't think God's gender specific either, but like God is there, and the grace of God is there for anybody anytime they want it. You
It's
just
like
have
you got to access it. You got to access it, right?
you gotta surrender and say,
Yeah.
I don't know how, you do. Let me get out of the way and let you.
You said when we were talking about previously, you made a comment that you said, I don't think it was either journal or you said a prayer, but it was a simple 2-word prayer. You want to share what that prayer was if you remember what you told me? It was,
I
I
don't
think
remember.
you said, help me, help
Oh,
me.
that, yeah, that's the alcoholic prayer. Help me.
Yeah.
I the night that I quit drinking, August the 10th of 2002, I went to my hotel room and I laid on the bed because my ex had thrown me out. She was tired of my crap. And I'm laying on the bed. This guy calls me, says, I got 2 chicks in the car, man. I'm coming to get you. And I'm like, no, I don't, no, I can't. I've had enough. And he's like, no. And I hung up on him and I turned my phone off, and excuse me, I laid back on the bed and I just started crying. And I said, God, and I swore at God. I was like, if you're blank and real, then I need your blank and help. What the hell's wrong with you? And I blamed God for all my troubles. And I laid back and I said, I need your help. Help me. And then I rolled out of the bed. I got on my knees. I had a bunch of alcohol that night. But I just said, I don't know how to do this. I need your help. If you're real, I need your help. And the next day, it wasn't like there was no burning bush. There was no, stars streaking across the sky. There was no, it was very gradual. And I think that for me, what I had to do was I had to learn to see a miracle in every single moment.
Yeah.
Every I had a friend that he's passed away, but he his name was Gary, and you'd walk up to Gary and say, Gary, and he was a very, very, very extremely successful business person. And you'd say, Gary, how you doing? And I wrote about this in my book, Walls of Wisdom. And he'd say, Ken, I am having the best day of my life. And not only that, I get to be here with you and talk to you right now. And what in the world could be better than that? And he was very animated, and that's the way he lived his life. And he was at he had cancer, and it was stage 4, and he was in the hospital. And the nurse, a friend of mine, his mother was one of Gary's nurses, and at the end of his life. And Gary said, or the nurse walked in and said, Gary, how you doing today? And he was weak, and life was leaving his body, and he mustered up all of the energy he could, and he said, I'm having the best day of my life. And not only that, I get to be here in this beautiful new hospital with all of you amazing nurses and doctors here to take care of me and help me. And I just can't think of anything better than that. And an
Wow.
hour later, Gary died. And he left a legacy, man. His higher power was Harvey, the invisible 6 foot 3 inch, 3.5 inch invisible rabbit from the movie Harvey back in the day. Because Gary had such a hard time wrapping his head around a god or a higher power. And so he's like, all right, if I have to have a higher power, it's Harvey, the invisible rabbit. And so Gary, at Gary's celebration of life, it wasn't a funeral. He said, I don't want anybody mourning me. I want you all to celebrate. And there were thousands and thousands of people at this gathering for Gary. And everybody there got a big button that had a big white rabbit on it that said, I'm having the best day of my life on it. But that's the legacy he left. That's the imprint he left on me and thousands of other people. We all have a choice. We get to have a choice, and we have the chance every single day to wake up and make a positive difference in the lives of somebody else. And most people are sitting on their ass, sitting around wondering why life is happening to them and being the victim and complaining about things when they could take life right now, whatever is going on, and find a reason to be grateful for something. And when you change and you shift into that attitude of gratitude, and I know that it's cliche, I get it, but you've got to have that shift. And when you have that shift and you know that there's abundance, and not just money financially, but abundance in everything all around you at all times, life becomes magical, man.
Man, I love the passion. I love that passion, man. That's fire right there. I love that, man. So let me ask this question. Going back, we talked about the gift, and you said you just got to surrender. So when you said help me, that's the way you surrendered, right? You let go right then and there. I need help, right? Whether you're an alcoholic, a worryaholic, right? A workaholic, right. We all have some issue that we need to surrender from, right? Surrender from. And so, like I tell people, there's two types of surrender: surrendering from drama, from alcohol, from worry, and surrendering to God, surrendering to your purpose, to your calling, whatever that is. And so I think people see the word surrender as a weakness when I see it as a strength. What are your thoughts?
I think it's definitely a strength. I mean, look, there's times when you have to fight. There's times that you've got, I have, there's been many times where I have people that owe me money, and it's like, well, I'm just going to surrender. And no, man, you got to call them. You got to say, hey man, you owe me this money. Let's go. Or, whatever. Now, another friend of mine used to say, you have to how did this, pray as if you cannot work, and work as if there is no God. And pray as if you're not capable of working, and then work as if there's no God. Right? So you've got to show up, you've got to fight, you got to battle, you got to put in the work, but you also, like, dude, if there are things that are out of control out of your control, right? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I remember when I got sober, I thought, okay, God, fix my life. For the love of you, fix my life. It's a mess, and I need you to fix it all, because I've tried, and I'm no good at it. And then serendipitous things have occurred, and they occur every day of my life, of acts of providence, of God showing up, and it's sometimes you don't even realize God was there until you live long enough surrendering and working, and then you go, oh my gosh, it's like the footprints in the sand. Like you can look back and go, wow, I did not realize that he was right there with me the whole time. So, to me, surrender is just, you can't control it. And if you can't control it, then you've got to surrender. You've got to surrender to God. Say, hey, to whatever you call God. I don't define God like everybody else. Whatever your definition of God is what you need to surrender to God. Something outside of yourself. And to the people that say, I don't believe in God. Okay, cool, whatever, man. But your best thinking got you to where you are. So you may want to consider that there's a power greater than you that you could. I had a kid that thought my Mercedes was his God. I'm like, hey, dude, clean it while you're worshiping it at least. like, I'm kidding. You've got to, you don't have to. Again, nobody has to do anything. That's one of the cool things that God did is he gave us free will, right? So you have the choice to do whatever you want to do. But boy, oh boy, at least in my experience with my life and the lives of some of the people I've helped, most of the time that's not a good plan. You want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Exactly. So Ken, you've come through that. You're working hard now because I guess it's a job or a chore every day. You got to keep working, working through that success ladder of staying away from the alcohol. Maybe you don't have a problem with that anymore at all, or not?
No, I don't.
Well, good. So now you got this.
Good.
You're highly successful right now. You're very successful. I guess it depends how people define it. But tell me a little bit about this Grow Live Academy and where that was derived from, how it evolved, since we're talking about Chiseled, how it evolved.
So I don't know if you've heard of Jeffrey Gitomer. He wrote the Little Red Book of Selling.
I got it right here to my left over here.
Okay. So Jeffrey, it's on a shelf right behind me. So Jeffrey is a good friend of mine, and his wife is a good friend of mine as well. And I got so it's a long story, but Jeffrey wrote a book called Get Shit Done, and I saw that it released, and so I called him and to congratulate him on the book. And I said, if you would like, we can do a live stream and promote it. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I said, all right, I'm on my way home, and I'll send you a link, and let's get on and do a live stream and promote your new book. And Grant Cardone happened to be watching. He's a friend of mine, and he's also a Facebook friend, and he saw Jeffrey and I live, and he was in the comments, and he said, love you guys. And I said, oh my gosh, Grant's on. And Jeffrey's like, bring him on. I said, Grant, I'm going to send you the link. You can jump on here with us. And Grant jumped on with me and Jeffrey. So it was Jeffrey Gitomer, me, and Grant Cardone. And I was like, I'm right here in the middle of two legends in the sales world, and holy crap, how's this even real? And so Grant was, and we had fun. It was fun. It was funny. They were digging at each other. It was a lot of fun. And afterwards, Jeffrey's wife called me and she said, oh my God, you've got to teach people how to do what you just did. I said, what did I do? And she's like, the thing where you had all these people, it was unbelievable, Ken. Like, you've got to teach that. You need a course. You need to create a course. I said, yeah, I've thought about creating a course. She goes, stop thinking about it and do it. I said, okay. And so I was going to do a 6 videos a week for 6 weeks, do a 36 video course, $9.97 one time. And bada bing, bada boom, you got this course to learn all this stuff. And I wrote out the curriculum. Literally, I was selling the course 2 days later, and it wasn't even all the way complete. And what happened was it ended up turning into, I was filming these videos, and I was like, oh, well, they'll need to know this. And so I added more videos. And here sooner than later, it was up over 100 videos. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this can't be a 6-week course. I'm just going to make it a full-blown course. And then people were still emailing or calling or texting. And what about this? And I was like, it's in the course. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to start doing a live call every Thursday on Zoom where people can come in and ask me questions live. Like, hey, let's just do it. You can come on, don't come on, I don't care. And then along the way, I became friends with Glenn Morshower, who's now my best friend in the world, and all these other people, Tom Ziegler, Zig Ziglar's son, who's the CEO of Zig Ziglar Corporation, and all these people, good friends, and they've all come in, Kyle Wilson, Ron White, they've all come to the Grow Live Academy and taught in, different things and wisdom. And I teach in there, and we do this meeting now every single Thursday. And it is phenomenal. Steve Rizzo, very famous comedian, Hall of Fame speaker. He was in there last night giving a talk, and Glenn Morshower was in there, and it was just unbelievable last night with 20 plus people in there. It was insanely cool, and that's the way it is every single Thursday. We do this call every Thursday evening. So the Grow Live Academy has gone from a one and done course to now it's an ongoing thing we do just about every single Thursday. I'd say we take off probably 4 weeks a year. But 48 to 50 times a year, we're there every Thursday night, and it's live, and you get to talk to my famous friends and the celebrities I bring in, and you get to interact with them. And Glenn calls everybody in the Grow Live Academy family, because it literally is a family. It's a mastermind, but we're a family.
That's great, man. Thank you for sharing that. It's, I'm hearing like all these names, right? And, some people, we can, name drop or idolize
Yeah,
people, whatnot,
yeah.
put them up on a pedestal, but you're a connected guy, right? You're connected, and not to the mob, but to people. Right. And so,
Yeah, maybe both.
maybe both, right?
I'm
So,
kidding. I'm kidding.
no. So how does a guy like you coming out of where you came from, going where you're going, and like, how did you get connected to Mark Victor Hansen? You told us about Jeffrey Gittimer.
Yeah.
Grant Cardone, and now Glenn Morshower. I can't even pronounce the name.
Morshower.
So
Yeah.
it's like they say you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. And for somebody that I'm hearing these names you're dropping, these are some high level thinkers, right?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I read all of Zig Ziglar's books, listened to all of his tapes, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, all the greats 30 years ago. And there's one thing Zig Ziglar said way back then that I live my life by every single day. And that is this: you can have everything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want out of life. And my sole purpose and mission in life is to help people. And that doesn't mean I give handouts. That's not what that means. I help people. For example, Mark Victor Hansen. I have a voicemail from Mark Victor Hansen the very first time he called me, and somebody referred him to me to be on my podcast, on my show. Mark and his wife had just released a new book called Ask: The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, which is a great book, by the way. And he said, "Hey, I was referred to you. Hey, Ken, this is Mark Victor Hansen. I was referred to you by our friend Bob, and he said that you have a great podcast, and we would be delighted if we could be guests on your podcast to talk about our book and da 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 da." And I'll never forget, because I was like, I missed a call. I'm like, it's a call from Arizona. I'm not answering that, so I sent him the voicemail. And I listened to the voicemail immediately, and I was like, "Oh my god, Mark Victor Hansen just left me a voicemail." And I run to the kitchen. My wife was out there. I said, "Listen to this." And she goes, "Are you going to call him?" I go, "Yeah, but I just wanted." And so I call, and it just blew me away that this guy, the number one best-selling author of all time, besides the Bible, is leaving me a voicemail wanting to be on my podcast. And so then, after having him on my podcast, I helped them. I had him on Amazon Live. I just helped and helped and helped them push their book, and I got them on all kinds of other podcasts and shows. And I can tell you that if you want to really, really, really grow in life and in your business, You've got to get out of your head, get out of your way, and start helping other people get what they want out of life. If you help enough other people get what they want out of life, you will have way more than you could ever possibly imagine having in your own life.
That's such a profound statement. I've heard that. I've read it. I'm a big Zig Ziglar fan as well. And I think what people miss is you have the scarcity mindset and the abundant mindset. And people probably think, I think people tend to think that if I help people get what they want, I'm missing out on something. Instead of thinking, if I help enough people get what they want, I'm creating a life of abundance.
Look, the Bible is, I mean, it's all over the Bible about giving. I think the tithe and offering doesn't have to go to a church personally. I think it can be, what are you giving to the homeless guy on the street? Are you, and what's your heart in that? Are you giving without judging? I've seen, I'm not going to help the homeless. That guy gets into a Corvette and drives home every day, or he's going to use that on booze or whatever. And I'm always like, look, man, that's not that's not between you and that homeless person. That's between them and God. My purpose is, I have to help people. Now, what they do with that help is between them and God, man. I did my part. I did my part. And if you think that you can justify not helping people by, well, I'm not doing it because that, you never know what people are going to do. Well, then you're good luck with that.
Yeah, you got to take the judgment out of it. I totally believe that. I know. I always tell the story of me and my kids. Going to baseball games and football games over the years. You always see the homeless people out on the street, and they're sitting there, and people walk by them like they're nobody, right? Like they're a pole, right?
Yeah, right.
And we started giving them a buck, every time we'd see them, and I would tell my son and my daughter, I said, you give them a buck, ask them their name. You ask them their name, then they realize you see them as somebody. Right.
Yeah.
And when that person feels as though they're seen as somebody, then it brings some meaning to them, even in the worst conditions that they're living in. And so now it got to the point where, as the kids got a little older, they were like, Dad, give me a buck. Dad, give me a buck. And now it's like they go give the buck themselves. And we were in San Francisco. This was so cool. Ken, we were in San Francisco, I don't know, about 3-4 months ago, whatever it was. And we went on a cruise to Alcatraz, not to stay, but to visit. Yeah. And we got back and we get off the boat, and there's a bunch of homeless people sitting there, and so there's all these people selling this, that, and the other thing. So go buy a couple hot dogs, and we're like, let's buy a couple hot dogs for the homeless people. So we buy a couple hot dogs, and my son walks over and he gives this guy a hot dog, and there's hundreds of people walking by, and he gets on his knee, and you see him talking to him, Ken, and he goes, "Can I say a prayer for you?" And he did that with all these people walking by. He didn't care because he knew he was sitting there trying to make, help this guy with prayer, but he made the guy feel something, right? Feel worthy of something, right? Yeah. And it was so powerful for me as a dad to see that, and if we all just took a couple minutes to do that, regardless, stop worrying about what other people think, and just show people you care. Just show people you care. How far would that go, right?
Yeah. Show people that they're more than an object that you're going to use them for. Just show people. That's it, man. Show people that you care.
Yeah, it's awesome. Hey, Ken, man, this has been awesome. If somebody was ground zero struggling, I mean, obviously you did the AA before, or that they need help to learning how to surrender. I know it's a simple prayer we talked about earlier. Where would you tell them to start?
I would tell them to start, if it's alcohol or drug addiction, I would start with Alcoholics Anonymous. Look up, you can find, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You got to start there, man. And get rid of all your preconceived notions of, I'll never forget sitting in those meetings thinking, man, if these people knew the stuff I've done in my life, they'd throw me out of here. And then I'm like, hearing that, some stories from, then I'm like, geez, I never did that. That's crazy. Like they were worse, some of them, and there's celebrities, huge celebrities that go to these meetings, and you've got to surrender, man. because the only outcome typically is going to be death and the destruction of other people's lives. You can stop it today, but you got to surrender. You got to admit that there's a problem. You got to
Mm-hmm.
admit. And when I finally did, and I look back and I'm like, okay, the common denominator among all of my problems was me and alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Always
So
the common denominator, right? Is
yeah,
you're always
yeah,
a part of
yeah,
that common denominator. Whether it's, and I just want to be clear, it's not just about the alcohol. It could be, again, worry, anxiety, anger, hate,
yeah,
jealousy, whatever
yeah,
those things are. You got to admit that you have a problem with that, and then admit it, ask for help, and
yeah.
surrender. Right?
And look, join a mastermind. Mine is I have one of the best masterminds in the world. Grow Live Academy is unbelievable. And it's not just learning videos online. It's literally a live call where on Zoom where you get to interact with the everybody there. And like I said, we're a family. We care about helping each other.
That's awesome. Ken, last question for you. Well, I
Yep.
got one more after that. How much
Okay.
more chiseling you got going on in your life?
How much more?
Yeah, how much more chiseling there going to be going on in your life?
I chisel every day, man. Until it's until I'm dead. I'm a work in progress, man. Every single day of my life.
That's why we call it chiseled, because we're all
Yeah.
work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. So, Ken, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
KenWalls.com is a good place to start. Ken's Biz Card, BIZ.com, Ken'sBizCard.com, just KenSBIZCARD.com is another way to get a hold of me. And you can Google me. I'm everywhere, man. Yeah, I'm
And he's
everywhere.
got the podcast, Breakthrough Walls, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Breakthroughwalls.tv. That's the website for my podcast. Yeah.
okay, it's good to know. Ken,
Yeah.
man, I'm so honored. I'm so grateful that you were able to spend this time with me and
Thank you, Rob.
share your story, share your passion, man. It was screaming through the screen here. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I hope everybody, I don't even hope, I know people are going to get something out of that. So
I
thank you.
hope so. I hope
They
so.
will.
I hope they don't think I'm a jerk.
Nah, not at all, man. I was inspired. I was lighting up inside while you were showing that passion there. So I appreciate
You.
that. So,
Thank you.
all right, Ken, thank you so much. Until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.